The story begins with Amadio, a shy young man who works at the bar in a small town. Even though he seems like an ordinary guy, there's one thing nobody can beat him at: table soccer. He's so good that almost no one wants to challenge him because everyone knows they'll end up losing. On top of that, Amadio is in love with Laura, a girl his age who always comes to the bar to watch him play and cheer him on. One day, Ezekiel arrives at the bar with his friends, causing trouble as soon as they walk in. When he sees Laura with Amadio, he decides to challenge him to a game of table soccer to impress her. Amadio tries to avoid playing because he doesn't want any problems, but he eventually agrees after Laura keeps insisting. The match starts terribly for Amadio, as Ezekiel scores 3 goals in a row while Amadio barely does anything. Laura begs him to wake up and stop letting himself lose, so Amadio finally decides to take the game seriously. From that moment on, he completely takes control of the match with incredible plays and impossible passes. Little by little, he ties the score while Ezekiel grows more and more frustrated because he can't even touch the ball. When the final play arrives, Amadio even offers to end the game in a draw, but Ezekiel refuses, claiming that there are no ties in this game. So Amadio sets up one last spectacular play, making several passes through the air until the ball reaches Beto, who scores the winning goal and secures the victory. Humiliated by the loss, Ezekiel tries to get more coins for a rematch, but Mr. Lopez, the owner of the bar, realizes he only wants to cause trouble and throws him out along with his friends. Furious, Ezekiel vents his anger outside the town, where a strange man approaches him and promises that he will never lose again if he agrees to work with him. Years pass, and Amadio still works at Mr. Lopez's bar. Even though he still loves table soccer, almost nobody wants to play against him anymore. One day, Laura arrives to tell him that she's leaving to study in the capital for 5 years. Amadio feels heartbroken after hearing the news, but he tries to hide his feelings by changing the subject. Suddenly, a massive noise interrupts their conversation. When they go outside, they discover that all the townspeople have gathered in the plaza to listen to the speech of that strange man, who now announces the construction of the Astro Goal Universal, a gigantic tourist project funded by a former resident of the town. Out of nowhere, a huge soccer ball is launched from the mountain and comes crashing toward the city. Everyone panics, thinking they're about to be crushed, but it all turns out to be part of the show. The ball opens in midair, and a soccer player appears performing incredible acrobatics before landing with a parachute. Finally, the man reveals the identity of the superstar known as Ace. It is actually Ezekiel, who has returned as the most famous soccer player in the world. At that moment, everyone in town is amazed by Ace's spectacular rival. But when Amadio and Laura get a closer look at him, they discover the truth. The famous soccer star is really Ezekiel. As soon as he lands, Ace starts talking about the bright future waiting for the town. However, one of the townspeople directly asks him if he now wants to become mayor. Ezekiel then answers with something that leaves everyone shocked. He bought the entire town, so now everything belongs to him, including the people. Even though his words are pretty disturbing, most of the townspeople seem excited about his plans. But Laura can't stand listening to him and yells from the crowd that they don't need his help for anything. When he hears her, Ace stops his speech and slowly walks toward her to say that he never forgot about her, and that he also never forgot about Amadio. He then returns to the stage and announces that construction will begin immediately, starting with the demolition of the bar. Desperate, Amadio runs inside to try to stop the machines, but when he realizes there's nothing he can do, he starts helping Mr. Lopez evacuate everyone from the place. Once everybody makes it out safely, Amadio tries to rescue some important belongings, but then he notices that the roof is collapsing directly onto the table soccer table. Without hesitation, he rushes to save it, only to watch part of the roof smash the table anyway. Even so, he uses all his strength to pull it out from under the rubble. At that moment, Ace appears and tells him that he still wants his rematch. Before Amadio can answer, the claw of a crane crashes through the ceiling and lifts the table up with him still hanging onto it. During the chaos, several of the table's soccer players are thrown out while Amadio nearly gets caught by the machine. Ace leaves the place and heads toward his helicopter. Laura runs after him, trying to convince him to stop all the destruction. But Ezekiel ignores her and orders his assistant to take the table to his mansion. Laura then climbs into the helicopter and keeps trying to make him come to his senses, while Amadio helplessly watches them fly away together. After losing the bar and believing he may never see Laura again, Amadio sits beside the founder's statue and breaks down in tears. But one of his tears falls onto Cappy, one of the table's soccer players, and suddenly the tiny figure comes to life. As soon as he wakes up, Cappy tries to get Amadeo's attention while barely managing to walk. When he finally climbs up Amadio's leg and makes himself noticed, Amadio faints in terror. After waking up, he thinks the whole thing must be madness or some kind of nightmare, but Cappy manages to convince him that if they find the rest of the team, they can help him get Laura back. Trying to figure out where the other players could be, Amadio concludes that they probably ended up at the junkyard. So the two of them head there and begin searching through the mountains of trash. Not far away, Loco appears trapped in the middle of the junkyard alongside Beto, but both of them are being chased by a huge rat dragging them across the place. After crashing through half the garbage pile, they go flying through the air and accidentally slam into Amadio. Cappy is overjoyed to reunite with his friends. Although the peace doesn't last long because he and Beto immediately start arguing about who the real top scorer of the team is. Shortly afterward, another player appears, this time from the rival table soccer team. But before they can continue fighting, an army of rats surrounds all of them. The group runs away and manages to hide inside an abandoned dollhouse, although Beto isn't as lucky and ends up getting captured by the rodents. Believing Beto is gone forever, Cappy starts crying uncontrollably, but to everyone's surprise, Beto suddenly reappears riding a giant rat like it's a horse. Thanks to this new mount, the four players manage to reach the top of a mountain of garbage where they observe the area with a pair of improvised binoculars. From there, they discover that Amadio is hiding very close to the table soccer table, although they also notice that Ace's manager is still searching for it. To stop them from taking the players away, Amadio steals a backhoe and drives straight toward the man to scare him off. Surprisingly, the plan works, and the man runs away in panic. With the path finally clear, Amadio and the players move toward the table, only to discover that an old man has already taken it away in a van to try to rescue the trapped figures. Beto decides to chase the vehicle by himself by jumping onto one of the wheels, but he ends up getting stuck inside the hubcap, spinning out of control for several seconds. After a huge effort, he finally manages to free himself, but his legs get stuck to the van's exhaust pipe just as the vehicle drives over a rock. The impact leaves Beto dragging across the road while losing a large part of his hair. Even so, this actually ends up helping the group, since Amadio and the others are able to follow the trail of hair until they reach an amusement park. There, they find Beto completely depressed after becoming almost bald. But since there's no time to waste, the group splits up to search for the remaining players while Beto goes looking for a wig. Shortly afterward, Amadio finds the midfield players trapped inside one of the park's shooting games. To save them, he jumps onto the structure and grabs the bar the figures are attached to, escaping while security guards chase him all over the park. Meanwhile, Cappy discovers that one of the twins ended up trapped on a roller coaster. When he tries to help him, the ride suddenly activates and reveals that the other twin is stuck at the very top of the track. Desperate, Cappy struggles to hold onto both of them while the cart races forward at full speed. In the end, they manage to free one of the brothers, but that causes the entire structure to loosen and start collapsing. Luckily, all three of them fall safely to the ground together with the cart. Later on, Loco, Cappy, and the twins find the soccer table where the other players are trapped. However, before they can rescue them, Ace's manager appears, grabs the figures, and locks them inside a box to take them out of the park. Cappy manages to reunite with Amadio and tells him what happened. Even though the others believe there's nothing left to do, Amadio refuses to give up and runs after the businessman's vehicle. After a long chase, he finally manages to recover the box with all the players inside. But there's still a much bigger problem left: rescuing Laura. To accomplish this, Amadio disguises himself as the businessman's driver and delivers the box to Ace's mansion in order to sneak inside without raising suspicion. Once inside, the manager hands the box over to Ace, who immediately takes Laura into a laboratory filled with bizarre inventions. There, he shows her several experiments he's been developing and reveals his next project: using the table soccer players to create a brand new type of soccer cleat. To do this, he places the tiny players beside a pair of enormous soccer boots on a mechanical platform, preparing to crush them completely. Desperate to survive, the players jump out of the box and try to escape across the massive conveyor belt before they get crushed. At the same time, Laura tries to confront Ace, but the situation gets even worse when Amadio suddenly appears in the laboratory and jumps from the second floor straight onto Ezekiel. However, he stands absolutely no chance against him and is easily defeated. When Laura realizes that Ace might actually hurt Amadio, she rushes to help him, but Ezekiel pushes her away, causing her to accidentally fall onto the laboratory controls. This releases a group of strange ostrich-like creatures with soccer cleats attached to their beaks. The animals begin destroying everything in their path while unleashing other bizarre experiments throughout the laboratory. Amid the chaos, the players use their bodies to form a kind of rope and help the others escape from the conveyor belt. But just as the last player is about to climb up, Cappy slips and falls into the grinder alongside the captain of the rival team. While Amadio and Laura try to escape, the two captains desperately run between the machine's rollers to avoid being crushed. Fortunately, the rest of the players help them once again by forming another chain and rescuing them just in time. But right when it seems like they've survived, a screw comes loose from one of the players and falls into the grinder, creating sparks that reach a flammable gas leak. Seconds later, the entire laboratory explodes. After the explosion, the police arrive at the scene and arrest Amadio and Laura, accusing them of destroying Ace's facilities. As they are taken away in a police car, the press surrounds Ezekiel, turning him into an even bigger celebrity. Furious after seeing that Ace is still being treated like the victim, Amadio steps out of the police car in handcuffs and publicly challenges him to a rematch. Ezekiel mocks him, saying that he no longer wastes time on children's games, and challenges him to a real soccer match instead. Laura steps in as well and accepts the challenge, but she sets one condition: if they win, Ace must give the town back and leave forever. Ezekiel immediately agrees. With the big match officially announced, Ace's men destroy the founder's statue and begin building a massive stadium in the middle of the town. Meanwhile, Amadio tries to put together a team, going door to door searching for players. But as soon as people learn they'll have to face the best soccer player in the world, almost everyone refuses. In the end, Amadio manages to form a very improvised team made up mostly of elderly people from the town. Finally, the day of the match arrives, and both teams step onto the field. As soon as the game starts, Amadio confidently takes the ball and tries to attack, but he loses possession almost immediately. Ace's professional team then begins passing the ball around with incredible ease until Ezekiel scores the first goal with a header while the goalkeeper barely even reacts. All of this happens in less than a minute. After kickoff, Mr. Lopez tries to surprise everyone with a powerful shot, but he kicks the ball so hard that he actually blows up a blimp flying above the stadium. Once they get another ball and the game resumes, Ace takes control again. He dribbles past almost the entire team and scores another goal effortlessly, while the poor goalkeeper even gets distracted asking the referee for a timeout. With 2 goals in barely 5 minutes, everyone realizes that Amadeo's team has absolutely no chance. Many spectators even leave the stadium because they don't want to keep watching the humiliation. Then, through a radio headset, Ace's coach asks him to stop scoring so many goals during the first half in order to keep the show entertaining for the audience. But that still doesn't stop the local team from getting completely crushed for the rest of the half. At the start of the second half, Cappy realizes that Amadeo's team will continue getting humiliated unless they do something. So he gathers all the table soccer players, and together they run onto the field to help the local team. Thanks to them, the match changes completely. Amadeo's team suddenly begins defending incredibly well and manages to stop every attack from the professionals. This infuriates Ace, who starts playing more and more aggressively until he commits a brutal foul on one of the opposing players. When it's time for the free kick, everyone expects Amadio to take the shot. But while nobody is looking, Loco climbs onto the crossbar and jumps onto the opposing goalkeeper. The keeper panics and accidentally lets the ball go in, giving the local team their first goal. Now the score is 2-1. After kickoff, Ace tries to continue the match, but his own teammates are already tired of his arrogant attitude and practically stop helping him. Taking advantage of that, the local team starts passing the ball much better, and with help from the tiny players, they leave Amadio completely alone in front of the goal. But just before he can shoot, Ace appears behind him and commits another brutal foul, knocking him down right in front of Cappy. When Amadio finally gets back up, Cappy tells him to just shoot and that they will take care of the rest. However, Amadio refuses because he wants to win fairly without cheating. Understanding his decision, Cappy and the others leave the field and allow the team to play the rest of the match on their own. Even so, the local team manages to recover and starts an amazing team play. Finally, Gattuno sends a cross into the box. And just when everyone expects one of the forwards to finish the play, the emo kid delivers an incredible header that ties the match to 2-2 with only minutes remaining. The entire stadium erupts with excitement, except for Ace, who becomes more and more desperate to win. Hoping to complete the comeback, Amadio attempts a powerful shot that ends up smashing against the crossbar. As everyone watches the ball flying through the air, waiting to see where it will land, Ace takes advantage of the referee being distracted and brutally stomps on Amadeo's leg. Even though it looked like an obvious foul, the referee decides to let the play continue. All the players stop to complain about the missed penalty call, except for Ace, who grabs the ball and sprints alone toward the opposing goal. Despite the pain, Amadio gets back up and runs after him, trying to stop him. Ace realizes that Amadio is catching up, so he accelerates and fires one final shot. The ball slowly rolls into the net, making the score 3-2. Seconds later, the referee blows the final whistle and officially declares the professional team the winner. But instead of celebrating, the entire stadium falls silent. As Ace celebrates completely alone, he begins to realize that nobody is happy about his victory. Confused and furious, he starts yelling at the crowd, but then his own manager appears to resign and tells him that everyone has finally understood who he truly is. And that's why nobody respects him anymore. Meanwhile, Laura runs to help Amadio, who is still lying on the field. Even though the local team lost the match, they walk off the field while being applauded by the entire crowd. In the end, Ace keeps the town, but the people refuse to continue living under his control. So everyone decides to leave together and start over from scratch, founding a new town far away from him. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.